Hello, Peculiars, and welcome back to another of our Peculiar Book Club shows. This is the cocktail that we created, yes, and I got mine from Gulp. However, I wanted to make something that was hard to swallow, and so I thought if we froze it, that would kind of do the trick. I'm really excited to see whether any of you made any new editions of this particular cocktail. I think frozen amaretto is something I hadn't really thought of before, but is now probably going to be my go-to summer drink. And speaking of swallowing things, I am very excited, and I know Davey is also very excited too, to be
Hey, everybody.
Hey, we got a couple of interesting things going on tonight here, Davey, and they're both sort of related, just a little. And I think about the fact that you have a new baby, and soon something, don't they swallow everything?
Let's just say, as I was listening to Mary Roach's book, Gulp, there were some things happening with my baby that were very relatable to some of the chapters. There was some burping, some gassing. Yeah.
Well, and the way I figure it, pretty soon they'll get to that crawling stage, in which case Mary Cappello's book is going to be very useful for you to think about all of the things that could go.
Luckily, I'm not there yet. Luckily.
Yeah, you're going to be perfectly terrified and prepared as a parent. So with ado, I would like to say hello to Mary Cappello and Mary Roach. We forgot to do the ink thing again.
Oh, of course the ink thing. There they are.
Hey,
hello.
Hello.
Hi.
We've got people saying hi. People are very excited. Jennifer says, "Oh my gosh, I almost went to bed. I'm so excited. I didn't forget." Official clear for season 3. We've got Mike saying, "Beware peanuts." Mike joined us a little bit.
Oh yes,
peanuts. Leanne is here too. Leanne says we have binary Marys today. We've got double Marys. It's just really exciting to have you guys. We have people from all over, and I missed, maybe Davey can find them, but people say hello from New Zealand and from from all over the United States and also the UK, and it's just really exciting to have them here. And I know it's because they're so excited to talk to all of you. So just to start off, I have to admit, it gave me great joy to call this Two Marys, a Gulp and a Swallow. It was really lovely. So I love both of these books, and I feel like with Gulp and Swallow, you guys coming or going. And so while I'm waiting for people to be typing things up as questions, you guys don't forget you have to type them. It takes a little bit longer for it to get to us. Oh, Kathleen says hi from Canada. Sadie was saying she tried to explain this to her traveling companions and they just didn't get it. It's a fun club. We talk about swallowing stuff. So while they're typing in their questions, I thought I would start with the first softball question I'd like to ask everybody. How did you get the idea to write this book? And so I think we'll start with Mary Roach and we'll go to Mary Cappello. How did this come about?
Gulp was my, I think it was my fourth book. And there wasn't really a moment where I wasn't inspired. I don't have a good origin story. I was just thinking about, I think I read somewhere the fact that the alimentary canal, that is from the mouth to the anus, is like different rules apply. Nor the rest of the body you want to keep bacteria out, whereas this tube, it's stinky. There's plenty of bacteria. So we humans are like a donut. There's that's a different world in there, different rules, different smells, and it seemed like a very Mary Roach place to spend a couple of years. It just, I frankly, I couldn't imagine why I hadn't done this book before, and it was incredibly fun. It's not, people kind of thought, oh, it's a book about digestion and nutrition. There's almost really nothing about nutrition. There's barely any digestion. I'm just off into these kind of a little bit off to the side, the little fringes of it. But anyway, that's what happened. I think I just thought, how did I miss this?
It's so obvious, right? It's hiding in plain sight.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I got just a wee nip of your origin story before we got started today, other Mary. So could you tell us, like, what inspired? How did you come to this bizarre gentleman?
Yeah. Well, I first wanted to say, though, how great it is to have found my people, because, I think putting Gulp next to Swallow, and I've read all your books, it's just like, we know what we're interested in, and we don't question it, right? We found each other. So thank you. And thank you for having me. And it's a real honor to be here with Mary. I had gone to the Mutter Museum with my partner, Jean Walton, who was writing a book about peristalsis. And I won't, ask you what that might mean about us, that she's interested in things that go out and I'm interested in things that come in. But there we were at the Mutter Museum looking for the megacolon. And so that's why we had gone to the Mutter Museum and rounded a corner. And actually, it was Jean who discovered the foreign body collection. And she just called me over and said, take a look at this. And of course, the thing about the foreign body collection, the Chevalier Jackson foreign body collection, is that it's not on display. It's a reveal. You have to open a drawer and you don't know what's in there. And so she opened the drawers, and of course, seeing these things and the way that they were meticulously arranged and each of them numbered and so lovingly placed, I thought, I've got to write an essay about this. It seemed very poetic to me. It seemed like a cosmology of things. And so I thought, okay, an essay. Then I realized, learned pretty quickly that he had written a best-selling autobiography in 1938. And so I thought, okay, got to read that, being a literary person. Once I read Jackson's autobiography, which was rife with childhood trauma and a barely survivable childhood, I realized that there was a book waiting to be written that could bring his story together with the stories that are attached to the objects that are kind of haunted. It's a haunted collection. You can't know anything about the objects by just opening the drawers. And so I wanted to bring some of those lives back to light, but I also wanted to meditate on the objects themselves, because I'm fascinated just with the objects as their own erratic, talismanic, weird things. So that's how it happened.
You really belong in this club. It's true. There's no doubt. I got a question for both Marys. I like this. This is how we're going to keep this straight. Both Marys. This is Leanne's question. You both write with attention to detail, and there's a sort of detail-fueled wry wit with Mary Roach, and Mary Cappello has these detail offering a sense of order. I agree. I think that it's really interesting to read two great writers about there's not exactly the same subject, but similar kinds of concepts, and realizing how differently these stories can be told. And so, you're as storytellers, how do you view your way of telling these stories? Are you principally a storyteller? Are you principally a researcher? How do you think about it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll say not so much about storytelling, but about detail. I think Mary and I have a shared taste for the variety of detail. Like, I love just the list. There's places just where it's a list of all these different things in the collection. And it reminded me of, I found a paper in some medical journal that had a long list of all the things that emergency room personnel had removed from rectums. And it was like a jeweler's saw, a salami, a bottle of impulse body spray, a lemon, a cold cream jar. It was just, I don't know what it is about lists, complete, comprehensive, very varying lists. And each one within that list, each detail suggests, as Mary knows, Mary C., each one of those is a story and is a person. And I both love the list, but want to know more. And the fact that you, Mary, were able to take it farther. I mean, I just throw it in a footnote and let the list be its own kind of curiosity cabinet. But you were able to take it farther and to, and I love that. But anyway, that I sense a kinship in that love of strange detail.
Yeah. I also think there's a kinship. I feel a kinship with your interest in medical language. I also love just the words, and some of these words, and you say should come into common parlance. And also just the love of reading these books that these medicos write. Right. So I think at some point you say, I like to read MFK Fisher on food and Trillin, but hey, I also love to read doctors, and I'm so with you on that. Even when I can't comprehend a medical book, it's almost like it's asemic writing. I'm there, and it's not dull to me, So, but I think what an interesting distinction between hilarity and order that the person
Yes.
kind of saw there, but with each of us interested in detail. Your books, of course, are laugh out loud funny, but the sentences are worlds that I just want to stay inside of. But it's interesting that the person who asked the question sees me as being about order. I'm glad that you find that to be the case. The book really is about the order of things and how this guy, Joey Jackson, was obsessed with ordering these things that could not be ordered. And I think of myself as more of a kind of excessive writer. So the lists are my indulgences and just wanting to let them go and go and go. There's a kind of infinitude to the list that I love. I'm a bit of an anti-narrative writer, actually. So we were talking in the green room a little bit. Mike was saying, that my book is more like a mosaic. And absolutely, I write creative nonfiction. So I was trained as a poet. So I'm always trying to juxtapose things that don't want to be next to one another. And so storytelling is important. Yeah.
I love the fact that there is poetry in these sentences. That you have this description of the circumstances, like you had an essay by that title, sitting alone among buttons. What's the title?
Alone on the floor with a pile of buttons.
Alone on floor with pile of buttons. Which was one of the explanations for how this happened, how the button, for the swallowing of the buttons. But just you had arranged them in this way, and they became poetry. These very specific medical, sparsely worded descriptions of the circumstances became a kind of
it's
poetry.
So true. It's so true. It's a found poem. And I like to think of the different ways in which you and I have described how things move through the alimentary canal. And when I read yours, I wish I had said that. So I think at some point you say something about the end part is like takes the length of time that it takes for the Amtrak train to go from Los Angeles to San Francisco. So it slows down at that point.
That's right. Because somebody said, they said the medical term, and again, medical term is transit time. It's called transit time. So I immediately thought of transit and it is about the length of time that it takes. So I love to kind of play off of those medical terms.
Yeah. We just have so many people like fanning in this thread here. So I'm gonna throw some of these up here in a minute. I will say that when I first put it up there, I provided one of the lists, and someone thought that I was about to cast a spell. So they thought I was like, and I need, and I thought that is the magic of what you can swallow. So a couple things about, first of all, Cricket says Mary Roach is my life goal. She's all of our life goals. We all have Mary Roach goal. We can't all be her, but we're going to try. And I know many people were moved by Stiff. I know it's one of those books that you shouldn't listen out loud to on the treadmill. I discovered we talked about that before because I kept falling off. I would stop. Like for some reason, my whole body would stop when I would learn. So I'm like, the head's the size of a roasting pan into the back wall of the. Yeah. Leanne points out, this is Leanne again, and actually I love this question because several of you have now said this, and you said it about each other. This concept of words, like you have this very specific, this talent for bringing out very, very specific, very particular words. And then further below, there's another comment that, where is it? Oop, I lost it. Oh no. Davey, help me. Where's talisman up? I had it. There it is. Talismanic. that was a word, and so several people are talking about this incredible ability to like make the words. And then Mary Roach, you were saying about the way the medical terminology works too, this transit time. And I think that that's beautiful because your books are informative, but you haven't forgotten the power of the individual words, because I think that's really, really a magical thing that that not every author does, and it really lets your imagination kind of run. Did you have favorite words?
I have some favorite medical words. I love the preciseness of them. There's a word, grumous, Grumous, which means, I believe it's clotted and lumpy. I mean, it's not just clotted or lumpy. It's like I may have the exact specifics off, but anyway, you could look it up. Some people are looking it up right now. Grumous, Grumous. It's just, I love the specificity of it, and that some physician Not sure, or not necessarily a physician. Some scientists felt that that clotted and lumpy on their own weren't good enough, that we needed a word that said both. I love that. I love frass. Oh, there's a good one. What is that? Sternocleidomastoid, some sort of jaw, stern, the muscle between here and here. I don't know.
Grimace. We've got grimace.
Okay.
I can't read that. It's too small. What does it say? I can't read that. It's too small.
We've got grimace bandersnatch.
I think it says thick and clotted.
Okay.
And clotted are the two.
There you go. Thick and clotted. Right. Okay. So
the other one's a muscle in your neck.
I got that.
Helps turn your head.
Okay.
You go with your Latin cognates.
I like frass. Frass.
What's frass?
Frass is insect shit. It's you find it, and my cousin Dominic is a fine arts bookbinder, and he knows frass because you find frass inside the bindings of very old books. And you find it in honeycomb, the little cups of honeycomb. You find frass.
I don't think I want to get caught on the other side of a Scrabble board from either of these Marys. I think I'd spend a lot of time looking things up in the dictionary.
Well, when the observation was made about our interest in single words, and it made me think about, the phrase that came to mind, it will seem strange, is that we're both interested in something like the unplumbable navel. The unplumbable navel. I mean, we're writing about things that can't really be gotten to the bottom of. Right? Yeah. Things that can't be gotten to the bottom of. And and
that's the appeal. That's part of the appeal.
That is totally the appeal. And favorite words, I can't believe it right now. I can't think of a favorite medical word because, of course, I must have a trillion. But I do love that Chevalier Jackson abbreviates foreign body as FBDY. I just something about that I loved always.
That's great.
And I have lots of favorite words. Crenellation is a favorite word. Crepuscular is a favorite word.
Crepuscular is a good one. Crepuscular I love because it sounds like it should exist within dermatology, crepuscular, but it means, active at dawn and dusk. Yeah. It just was like that. That's what crepuscular is.
Yeah. I tried to integrate scatological contrivance of human effluence into my dissertation, and they made me take it out.
Effluence is a great word. That's another great word, though. Yeah.
It was the scatological that I was quite proud of, but no, they said no. A lot of people talking about things that they ate and swallowed when they were young and ended up in a hospital. Or, there's another one over here about, it's pica. Jennifer said her nephew has pica.
Eating.
Money, marbles, buttons.
Yeah.
Mike Breen said he drank a bottle of children's cold medicine.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I like the word parablepsis, I think it is, which is I literally used to read this old medical dictionary from the 30s. Parablepsis is the wild look of insanity, eyes open, like the very agitated, very parablepsis is. I might have the nuances slightly off, but that was an amazing word that somebody came up with.
No, I'm loving.
Borborygmi. That's a good one. Yeah, stomach sounds. That's in Gulp. Yeah. It actually intestinal. I think it's more intestinal sounds.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe not belly, unless you extend what you mean.
Maybe both, perhaps both. But it's a great word, borborygmi. It sounds like an obscure tropical illness. Right? Like berry, borborygmi.
Right. Yeah.
I've got gas. No, I've got this other thing that's much more interesting sounding.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you guys, there's so many things. Intestinal sounds. Okay, we've got Britton is a GP. This also helps explain why she knows some of these things. You guys, I've lost track. We've gotten off track here. We have questions? I saw questions. Okay. I've lost them.
Well, I think it's interesting that a lot of people, of course, when you open this door, everybody has a story about something they've swallowed, or and I think I say somewhere in the book that I think that we all have some experience of a formative episode at the threshold of the mouth, that made us who we are. And Yeah. So the stories abound.
What was yours?
Mine was, I came to realize after I was really deep into the subject, so what's the autobiographical kernel here? And I don't know why it wasn't apparent immediately, but when I was 4 years old, I drank a bottle of bubble bath, and it was probably totally benign experience, but it didn't have any ingredients on it. And it was an Avon product, and it was my brother's bubble bath. It was a little sailor bottle, and you screw the hat off. According to my mother, I had eaten an enormous lunch, and I came down from the bathroom, and these bubbles were coming out of my mouth. And so she called the poison control center, and when there's no ingredients on the bottle, they told her to take me to the hospital. Sadly, I had my stomach pumped when I was that age, so it was really obviously traumatic, really traumatic. Yeah, and should never.
That took you to the hospital, because mine would have been like, well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, yeah. And interestingly, one of the memories I have from this episode was the yellow teacup that my mother they told her to give me milk, I guess. So she was running with me. We live near a hospital. She's running with me to the hospital, and this the yellow teacup, unfortunately, it was kind of, displaced by this horrific tube, etc. But yeah, that's the one. It was a traumatic episode. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't remember one personally, but I have one of my good friends, Stephanie, very recently, within the past year. Stephanie, she went for a hike in the hills with her dog. She got back into the car. It was a hot day. She got back. It was a truck. And on the floor of the truck, kind of a messy truck, I've been in her truck, there's an old water bottle. And she picked it up, and she took a swig. And it had been there a while. And she had this hideous, fetid taste, and she looked in the bottle, and there was a dead mouse. It had gotten in through the opening, and I wrote about this in my last book to illustrate how a mouse can fit through the opening the size of its head. And I had her measure the opening, and it was, in fact, I had her measure the mouse and the opening, and it's true. It can fit through. But so she was, of course, horrified because it was this rotting, hideous thing. She called her physician, and the nurse answered and said, well, you spit it out, right? And she said, yeah, I spit it out. And she said, yeah, I don't think you need a doctor, but you may need a psychiatrist.
Wow.
Can you even imagine?
My formative experience had to do with, so I was very mobile as a toddler. I learned to walk when I was 8 months old. That is terrible. Davey, I do not wish this on you for your toddler. 8-month-old child who can walk is very scary. And my mother and all of her friends were putting together a large pool table. So there's 7 people holding up the pool table, and it takes all 7. And my mother is underneath screwing the legs on. But they had, because this is back when you, of course, took your child to all of your friends' parties with booze. So up on the counter, there's a whole bunch of half-finished strawberry daiquiris. And they look over, and I'm just going down the line, finishing them up. And they're screaming, but no one can come grab me.
So they're holding the. Oh my God.
I mean, it's kind of a whole life feature, really. Frozen cocktail beverages. But apparently, I just went to sleep and slept for like 7 hours.
Wow.
So no one took me to the doctor. But yeah, I did see Sadie had said something which I didn't even think about this, but she's like, his middle name, that his name is Chevalier, but they would have pronounced it Quixote in England instead of Quixote Jackson, retrieving swallowed objects, because it's like a quest, right? He's on this strange quest to retrieve things. So I thought that was kind of a clever, clever thing.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the things go ahead.
No, go carry on. I'm catching up on comments.
No, I was just thinking we were talking about the border of the mouth, and one of the things I loved learning and thinking about in Gulp was I think it was for a chapter that had to do with saliva and talking about how within your own mouth, saliva or chewed food or whatever it is not disgusting. As soon as it leaves your mouth, even your own saliva, it becomes disgusting. So, and I love the scientists who study disgust. Like they'll have subjects, they'll put soup in front of them, and then they'll have them spit in the soup, and then ask them, to eat it, and ask them how they feel about that. But it's the border, and then looking at, if it's on the tongue, and if the tongue extends, and so somebody actually mapped the borders of the self by talking to people about where does it become disgusting. Where it can, the tongue can leave the mouth, it's the lips, but also the tongue, if the tongue is sticking out. I loved that has been thought about. And
absolutely. I think that's what both of these books are about, really, very much so. The borders of things. How far can you extend? Where does the self begin and end, and in the body or outside of the body? And this saliva, when you were telling the story about your friend who drank the mouse water, reminded me of a friend who's written an essay about his daughter drinking from a can of soda that she thought it was a can of soda, but he was spitting into it, after exercise or something. So she drank his saliva, so wasn't very happy making that.
The saliva is an interesting substance. It really is. Yeah.
And then,
that was one of my favorite chapters.
Yeah, I love that chapter. And also learning about her, the expert in saliva. She was amazing.
She was amazing. The beautiful Italian saliva researcher with the excellent clothes and the passion for spit. I loved her. Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's a very human thing. Because the history kind of mentions, what if you're a lizard with a long tongue? Certainly, dogs aren't disgusted by things that have come out of their mouth.
Or other people's mouths. Yeah.
Well, as we know, I think.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. It's true. A good lubricant. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to know a sword swallower while writing Swallow, which I never anticipated that in my life course I would get to know a sword swallower because of something I was working on. Dan Mayer, who's really a fabulously interesting person. I have great respect, as much awe of sword swallowers as I do of
endoscopists.
Some of whom, by the way, self-scope. So that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
But
wasn't the first endoscope was. There was a sword swallower involved in the
the sword swallowers basically taught the endoscopists what they needed to know. Yeah.
That's so cool.
We had a display when I worked at the museum, and I remember looking at them and thinking, no. They look like swords, but they used to be solid. They weren't flexible. Which recognize, I'm like, this all goes in you.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Self what? I know. Self what?
Self-scoping. I know. There could be a favorite word.
Self-scoping, yeah.
The shorthand among the bronchoscopists and endoscopists. Yeah, scoping. Have you scoped?
And Lexi points out the audiobook. A number of us listen to the audiobooks, and sometimes you can get really interesting, like the voices. Mary did her. I fell off the treadmill to Mary's voice the last time, but you have a great reader for yours, I have to say.
Yeah, sorry. Say that again. You have what?
A great read. She has a great reader for because does the voices.
Oh, yeah.
They do which is really fun. Not everybody does. The girl says, I would self-scope every day. It would be so fun to watch.
Well, I have to say, when I got my first colonoscopy, I had it done without any anesthesia rather, because I wanted to see. I'm like, hell yeah, I want to see my own colon.
Yeah.
I want to see it. And the guy's like, okay.
That was one of many places in the book that I had to reread because I wasn't. Did you really? I was like, did I just read what you said? Wow.
I did. I did it with that. And it's not that. It's really not. It's painful when you go around the corners and the bends because that's when the colon stretches, and that's how the colon feels pain, letting you know there's so much gas it may explode, that kind of thing. But when it's not going around a corner, you don't feel, so you kind of go along and it's okay, and then you're like, ah, and then they keep going and you're okay, and it's all over. But it was, I have to say, the second time when I turned 60, I definitely had the drugs.
Okay. Yeah. But wait, your physician was okay with this? Was it partly because you're writing about it, and or?
Well, I told him I was writing about it. I told him why, and I think he knows that it's not typically that painful, really. I mean, a lot of in Asia and in other parts of the world, people have it done with sedation on demand. In other words, they're hooked up, and if they want if they want to be sedated, they can ask for it, but usually they don't. You just it's not that bad. My husband gets fillings without Novocaine, which I cannot even imagine. He's like, it's not a big deal. It doesn't hurt that, and it doesn't hurt unless they hurt a nerve. And I'm like, yeah, but they could hurt a nerve. They could hit a nerve. But the colonoscopy, it wasn't that bad. And I just have to tell you that my colonoscopist's name, as you know, if you've read the book, is Dr. Turdeman.
They always have these great names. Yeah,
I know they do. They do. I don't go to him anymore. Now I go to Dr. Stolman, which is one letter off from Stuhlman.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with these guys.
I know. So true.
Yeah, most of us are not keen on being aware of that one. I have to say, I've never had one. My partner has had one, and he actually really liked the sedation part. He was like, "This is amazing. This is the best sleep I've had in years."
It's very refreshing.
Yeah,
it's propofol. It's the Michael Jackson drug. Yeah.
I think Answer Girl is so right that so many times the sedation is really for the doctor more than the patient. Yeah.
Yes, I think so, because I was vocal during that. They were kind of like moving me around. And
Hello. Well, this is all right. We've had so much fun. I actually keep forgetting that I need to pick various winners and for the drink. We ended up having a couple. And I don't have my list. So if you guys suggest a name for the cocktail, you should tell me what it was. It started off as Hard to Swallow, and then we got a couple of other ones. I think one of them was called The Jokes Write Themselves. So I hope all of you are also enjoying this. This actually turned out really well. I've had amaretto sours before. I've never frozen them and made daiquiris out of them, but like, dang, that's actually a really nice little summer treat. I feel like that's like a amaretto popsicle thing, which I'm good with.
It sounds amazing. I don't have the ingredients, and it's only 4 o'clock when we started.
No, I'm out of brandied cherries. I'm out of cherries made with brandy, and I make brandied cherries. So I was a little sad. Should garnish it properly. I know. I've let us all down here. But I also just want to say that given that the whole theme today is about swallowing, I know one of our I won't out you here, but one of our members had a swollen. Had a part of their body get swollen back there and was having some struggles. Was like, I wonder if we're going to talk about this particular part of the body. And it just so happened that Cord Ravenswood, our Peculiar in the Field, decided to write a song about that particular part of the body. And so since we're about at halftime, I thought we would go ahead and share that video. And so stay tuned, folks. We'll be back. Put in your questions again for both of the Marys. And in the meantime, here's Cord.
Oh, hey there, Peculiars. It's me, Cord Ravenswood, your Peculiar in the Field, going far and then farther. In fact, this time I've gone so far as to discover a secret hero. In fact, this hero is so secret that when I tell you about it, I'm going to have to be gentle so as not to scare you. In fact, I think it's best that we get a little bit kindergarten for this one. If you don't like where you are going, if you don't like where you are at, I can protect you from what's blowing, all the cinder and the chat. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. Well now, when you're eating watermelon, when you're scarfing waffle fries, you masticate as much as you believe you need to. I'll do my best and I will save your life. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm just hanging around Ga 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 ga. I'm just hanging around now. Some people say I'm unworthy, not even up for debates. But do you want your Pepsi Cola squirting out your nose on your first dates? I bet you don't. And it won't. And you can thank me, 'cause I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm a uvula. I'm not your epiglottis. That's it, peculiars. Till next time, I'm Cord Ravenswood, your peculiar in the field, going far and then, well, you know, farther. But right now, I think I need to go someplace nearby and masticate.
So word.
Bravo.
Yeah. dancing uvula. Yeah. Just in case we. Actually, it was dedicated. So I went to college with our peculiar in the field, and that was dedicated to the memory of one of our friends who we lost recently. But but who would have appreciated dancing uvula in the background? That would have been all his thing. So anyway. Lexi was happy to out herself there. Yes, she had uvulitis, which I didn't know was a thing. And yeah, well, it's swelled up.
It sounds super painful. Yeah,
it does. I always thought if I ever had a career writing romance novels, I wanted to be my pseudonym to be Palatine Uvula.
Oh. Oh my God. You know what? I feel like this entire episode is just like a lovely, succulent word sandwich. It's so good.
Well, I love that near postscript with the epiglottis, not to be confused, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it's all making me think about how complicated everything is back there, you know?
Very complicated.
So incredibly complicated.
It's so many ways it could go wrong. And we have, you have a part of the brain, the swallowing center, as you know. I love that. The swallowing center. I looked up online. There's like 15 different actual places where you can go for treatment called the swallowing center. the original is in there. In there, rather. Sorry, it's in there. The swallowing center. I think it's brainstem. I think it's in the brainstem. It's very primitive, and you know that if you lose everything else, you still have that.
Yeah,
I don't know. My lizard brain is very untrustworthy. I choke on everything. Like I swallow air wrong. I didn't even know that was possible. Kathleen has a question. She says, to Mary and Mary, was there an item, substance, someone swallowed that blew your mind and actually made you think, well, that was just dumb?
I remember reading about people swallowing partials, like partial dentures, which I think was pretty big. I was amazed at the size of things people can put down. I mean, but you, Mary, take it away.
Oh, no. But, you know, the tooth plate, that was one of the first things that Jackson removed, one of his very first foreign bodies. And, you know, I mean, there's not a foreign body in the collection that I don't find interesting or, you know, how did that happen? So it's hard to choose. I'm really interested in, I really love foreign bodies that have words on them. So maybe to continue that theme. You know,
that's like, who is that horrible anatomist from the 1800s who would, it was like intaglio. He would paint part of a piece of bone. It would go into the stomach and it would etch itself, and he would pull it back. How does it? I can't remember.
Leaving his mark.
Yes. There? He would make nameplate. He made nameplates for his fellow anatomy instructors. I forget which stomach they were anyway. It was gross.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, it's like Chevalier Jackson putting his initials in his illustrations, not to the side, but often right at the back of the throat. It's like, okay, I guess you really want to be there,
Yeah.
But one of my
not like
favorite, one of my favorite of the foreign bodies in the Jackson collection is the perfect attendance pin. And I mean, come on, how does this happen? But then,
totally.
and unfortunately, the story attached to it is tragic. So it's that thing that happens again where, you're fascinated at the outset by just the nature of these things and not knowing where they hail from and what the story is. And then that story in particular, sadly, it was a 4-year-old African-American boy who didn't survive the extraction, which was really rare in Jackson's clinics. So, and he came into the hospital with pneumonia and had swallowed this pin, obviously, and really left me with the question of why they thought they even had to remove it. Because as you know, I mean, most things that we swallow, and this is really beyond imagining too, but how does it happen that the body really does tolerate it? And a lot of things can be pooped out,
if it gets down, it'll get out for the most part.
And I think this boy would have been fine, but he did have a fever and he did have pneumonia, but there's some indication that there may have been a tear introduced when they performed the procedure, which really rarely happens. So half of the case study's missing, and
Right. The teeth that looked like pants. That was unintentional questions about.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, the padlock is really amazing to me. I mean, and then shoe buckles. You don't accidentally swallow a shoe buckle, I don't think.
There was a. I remember reading an article years ago about I don't know if it's Pika, but people swallowing foreign objects, and it had the best title ever. It was about a guy who basically swallowed an airplane piece by piece.
Oh yes, I've read that article too.
And the title is "I'll Have the Cessna." I mean, it's it's probably horribly sad. I don't know if the guy died or what. I mean, but just reading the title, it was funny.
Question from after we read Thomas More. Thomas was on our show before. He was that first Davey Berris? What season was that? You're like, you don't know. Davey just
That's a
made
great question.
With the guy that swallowed all the knives. Do you remember all the?
It was season 1. Yeah, exploding teeth.
So we did have Thomas Morris on, and he had the case of the sailor that people kept paying money to swallow knives, but he eventually swallowed enough of them that he couldn't. There you go. Great chapters on a pocket knives on a bet. And he originally closed knives, but like they think anyway, good idea.
I do tell the story of a guy who came to be known as the human ostrich. Really sad story where he was swallowing things as part of a show, and then really didn't want to anymore, quite frankly. And his audience forced things down his throat. Like they wanted him to keep doing this. So this idea that it was fulfilling something for the audience to watch this man do this to himself. Yeah.
There was at some point, I'm thinking 1800s, maybe late 1700s, there was a treatment for bowel obstruction of swallowing ball bearings. And the thought was that would break up what was stuck. But in fact, they would collect and weigh and they'd weigh down the bowel and cause worse obstruction. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and
I guess it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, and all of that stuff in the so-called annals of medicine, where you can't believe the things that were done to people, and especially where foreign body removal is concerned. And prior to Jackson, just the crude instrumentarium and the way that most people really did not survive foreign body extraction before the development of the scopes that he designed. The thing about him was that he developed forceps that were meant to match each and every possible type of foreign body. And it was that monomania that I know, you're also interested in, and these folks who you look at, right? And that obsessive curiosity and doggedness. And he really was obsessed with every different granular particulate of the world we share, and how it would and how it interacts with human flesh. And
Yeah.
can I somehow master, that relationship and find a way to retrieve bloodlessly and without anesthesia using rigid scopes of my own design, monocular. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
what he did, how he invented these things and managed to. And he usually would have the stopwatch and time just how quick, because especially in the airway. So when he developed bronchoscopes, that was a whole other step, because putting tubes into the alimentary canal are one thing, but then putting a tube into an airway is a whole other thing, and having to sort of time it so that you're putting it in as the person, in rhythm with a person's breathing, expiration and inspiration, and there would be little holes on the sides. Of course, the person continues to breathe this way, but it's nothing that anyone in the contemporary moment, I think, can even consider trying to do. And it's like the age of anesthesia has made for, in a way, more sloppiness, if you will. You don't have to be as careful when the patient isn't awake. Yeah.
That's true. Or as fast, at least, because that was always also one, right? Like, well, we got to get this leg off in 3 minutes. So,
I remember going to the British Museum, and they had the huge hall when you first come in, and there was a display that was all amputation saws, just probably 100 different models of amputation saw. And when you think about how quickly it needed to be done and what a ghastly thing that was, I'm sure there were lots of different inventive minds applying their skills to how can we make this faster, sharper, better formed, a different shape. Anyway, it was, but for me, it was just the size of the collection, and to see them all laid out like that, something about that. Whereas if they just chosen 10 and put it in a case, I would have walked right by. But just the visual of 100 amputation saws, I love that.
Totally. Yeah. It's another list. It's another list. A type of sublime. Yeah.
I've got a little mention here for Mary. It says, "Good to see you." The Mooter, it was amazing.
Hi there. Hi, it's great to see you. Yeah. These are folks who are part of the history of endoscopy and bronchoscopy and the Chevalier Jackson legacy. And wow, it's wonderful to know you're there. Yeah. Cool.
I love the Mooter. I love the Mooter Museum.
I know. I went there for the babies in bottles behind the curtain, where most people don't go. I was doing some very strange research on man midwives and how they attempted to teach birth to other man midwives, and thought that they needed a doll for you to practice on so that they wouldn't kill living women because they weren't very good at it. And I was like, there's a whole lot wrong right here. So
first just the title man midwife. Kind of strange. Kind of odd.
They're like, female midwives have no formal education. They just apprentice for 7 years, whereas I've had a 6-week class. I think, that's clearly better. So
but what they practice on, you're making me think of with the amputation saws, what they would practice on. But I mean, what is like bone? I don't know.
Yeah, what did they probably hams.
I guess. Well, and I have another quick question, and it doesn't necessarily come up in either of your books, but there's a lot of accidental swallowing that happens of things that are alive, right? Like accidental swallowing of flies, bees, spiders, and things like that. The swallowing of spiders while asleep, is that a real thing?
Does that have a word?
I think
don't know.
But Mary does write about swallowing of living things.
I have a chapter on, can the eaten ever prevail? Ever make its way out? There's a not really an urban myth, but there's an internet myth among people in the herp community that there's certain, they're called superworms, kind of mealworm, that can eat its way through the reptile's stomach and kill the reptile and escape. And so I found someone who was willing to do a test with some kind of an endoscope, some kind of I forget exactly which variety it was, a flexible one, where he put we used a mealworm, and it was some kind of lizard, and we tied string to it, we had the animal swallow it, and we put the scope down, and then looked to see what happened. The thing immediately was very still. It did not in any way attempt to make its way out. Anyway, that's just one mealworm and one lizard, but an interesting question.
Octopi, possibly. They do, but an octopus eats a lot of itself and still kind of like carry on though, which is kind of interesting. They get their limbs back.
Yeah, right.
But I've never accidentally swallowed an octopus, so.
Well, you're reminding me of a few different things. There was a friend of Jackson's, supposed friend, who gifted him an article about, unswallowable things that I don't think he would have been interested in at all. It was mostly about fish getting caught in people's throats, and especially when people are fishing or swimming, or the fish seem to want to go for the mouth.
No, like there's one that goes up the urethra. The one in the Nile, they tell you not to swim in the Nile because there's a little very skinny worm that goes up the penis.
But I think what this makes me think about is, is it true whether we do swallow spiders while we're.
I'm glad you didn't think of. I'm going to swallow it if I can. Sorry.
It's okay. There was a fruit fly here too. It must be like the season, and we're on different coasts. I think that's really weird.
There's been buzzing around the whole time.
This question of the swallowing of the spider, whether it is true, they go in while we sleep around. I think it's more of a question of why we're fascinated by that, or why we want to know, and like the idea of the fish that goes up the urethra or whatever. I mean, I think all of this work proves that we are essentially porous. And it's things that we don't want to acknowledge as human beings.
We don't like that. No, we don't.
Yeah, we really don't.
We want to be impenetrable. Yeah, that's right.
Like, I have boundary issues,
Yes, we all do.
I just realized time. We have a quiz, do we not, Davey?
Of course we have a quiz. Absolutely. I think this is Mary's third quiz at this point.
All right.
The quiz this week is called Spit Out the Answer. So Hollywood seems to be really interested right now, currently, in swallowing things and people that swallow things. And Pika actually is going to come up in the next question. But so these are questions about Hollywood's obsession with swallowing things. So on the Apple TV Plus series Roar, Nicole Kidman plays a character who eats photographs, allowing her to, it's kind of a supernatural episode. Does she forget the memory? Does she relive the memory? Or does she see the person again? See the person in the photo again?
Okay. Peculiars can help. Here,
the peculiars will help you out. Mary Cappello, I know this is your first peculiar quiz. So
it's okay. I'm happy to try to guess.
They will help you out in the chat here.
Okay,
so are we supposed to? I would only be able to guess. I don't know, but I would guess.
Yeah, I would. It depends on how schlocky the series is. If it's really
a very
schlocky,
powerful series, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. I would say if it's schlocky, they want to be able to see the person again, but probably relive the memory. That's more interesting.
That's what I'd say. Yeah. Relive the memory.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of B's in the chat here, and the answer is yes. Relive the memory. Although briefly, it seems like the memory is then gone at that point. I don't know. The photograph's gone, so it's a very interesting episode that has to do with her mom. Okay. Her mom dealing with Alzheimer's and memories, and this photo album, and
but the photographic developing chemicals can't be good for you.
I didn't get into that.
Well, and it makes you think about eating. Some people really do love eating paper. And when you think about it, I mean, just pulp and something kind of attractive about it. Yeah.
So, sounds scratchy. It doesn't seem good. I don't know.
So we were talking about Pika earlier. That did come up. And I don't know if you saw this, the 2019 film Swallow. I thought it was appropriate with the title of your book. In the film, in response to her stifling marriage, Hunter Conrad begins eating objects, starting with, what do you think her entry point is? Now, she eats a lot of objects throughout the movie. It's sort of her rebellion almost. But what do you think her entry point was? Was it A, a marble, B, a thumbtack, or C, a battery?
Oh, wow. That's I love the options for all the things they suggest, of course. And lots of thumbtacks in Jackson's collection, but I don't think she would. I don't think in 2019 there are a lot of thumbtacks hanging around. And I don't think a battery would be the first thing a person would swallow. A marble is so much more
Yeah, marble's a good gateway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say throughout the movie, she does swallow all these things throughout the movie at some point.
Okay.
But you are correct. A marble is the best entry point. Let's be honest
wow.
here. Maybe that's just the Hollywood writers, but if you had to think of something smooth and round, probably. Oh, wait, just saw your first fly, Mary. Fly just flew across the camera. A marble would be a smart entry point into that. All right, question number 3. I'm going to go back. There was not another recent example. I was like, come on, there has to be one more. I need a third question. So I went back and I got a little silly with this one. In the 1994
film... The other two weren't silly?
Yeah, I know. In the 1994 film The Mask, Jim Carrey's hero has to swallow a bomb. Now, it was based on a graphic novel, a very comic booky type movie. When it goes off in his stomach, Jim Carrey, in his comedic way, exclaims, "That's a picante pepper." B, "That's a hot tamale." Or C, "That's a spicy meatball." What do you think the comedy master Jim Carrey would go with as his tag?
I hope that it's C.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for also. That's what I'm going for also.
Peculiars, what do you think? Yeah, we have a lot of C's in the chat. The answer is they are correct. Everybody apparently remembered this movie. C, that's a spicy meatball.
Well, I just remember the Alka-Seltzer ad for which that was a tagline.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still think of this line. Anytime I have something hot, I eat something spicy. I still think of Jim Carrey and the way he tagged that scene. Congratulations, 3 for 3 on the quiz. Very well done.
Thank you.
It's random. I told Brent I didn't have time, Peculiars. I'm sorry. I was going to do a sketch this week. Mary Roach, from your first chapter about the beer, I got this idea in my head of like Pepe Le Pew keeps hearing people talking about skunked beer, and he figures, hey, I am the expert in skunk. So Pepe Le Pew's skunked beer, he makes his own brand of skunk beer, not knowing that it's something bad. So I was going to do a whole sketch around that if I could get my hands on a Pepe Le Pew t-shirt, but unfortunately, I ran out of time.
Well, I have some good news I have a few news items for all of us here tonight, the Peculiars. A couple things. For one, I had intended originally to announce this at a later date, but since we're all here anyway, I want to. We're giving T-shirts out to all of our past authors, including Mary and Mary, and we have decided as well to start moving forward, creating T-shirts that are specific to seasons. That'll actually have the authors' names on the back, like it's a concert series. So you guys can get a new T-shirt every year. I cannot actually create; these have not been created yet, but I just wanted to let you guys know. We are then therefore moving the old T-shirts out, so those won't be available anymore after this season, and we'll have some new ones. So if you did want one, you'll need to email me. We closed the shop, but you can contact me directly. We can sort you out. Most of you who have subscribed should all have your boxes of swag by now. We sent out mystery bags. They had like all sorts of bizarre things in them, and most of it was rather gothic. I asked what people might want for swag when I do season 4, and the number of people who said wet specimens, we're just gonna have to take like a tour of the mooter at some point or something.
Well, we're gonna talk a lot about the mooter next week or next time, aren't we? In 2 weeks.
We are. So if you're gonna come back, we're actually doing Mr. Mooter's Marvels, and Chris, she'll be with us. The sorry, I just butchered her name. Will be with us, and we were gonna try and do it at the mooter, have her at the mooter when she did it. It just didn't pan out. COVID is still affecting a lot of things like that. So instead, I'm actually going to be live. I will be live at the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft here in Cleveland, because I thought that would be kind of fun. So I'll be broadcasting from there, kind of show you guys around what the place is like. So that's a lot of fun too. So if you haven't gotten your subscription for season 3 yet, we have 2 more weeks. You can subscribe before the end of May, and we just have so much fun on these shows. Cricket is a new person. She's joined us, and so now we've lured them in, and they're gonna be one of us now. Sadie says the swag was most excellent. Leanne wants pickled punks. I don't know if I've got that. I don't know. We'll see if I pull off some wet specimen, I'm going to be amazed. That'll be difficult to get through the mail. Wait till I try to send it internationally to y'all. But anyway, thank you all for being here. Mary, anything you want to leave us? Any special words of parting, like weird things we should like be repeating to ourselves silently as a peculiar mantra?
Just frass.
I don't know. Jackson used to tell people to chew your milk. Chew your milk.
Chew your milk. Chew your milk.
Chew your milk. Chew your milk, people.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. We so much
Thank
fun.
you so much. Yeah. Thanks, Davey. Thanks, Brandy. Great to hang out with you, Mary.
Thank you. Absolutely, Mary. Thrilling, really thrilling. Thank you, Brandy. Thanks, Davey. Thanks, everybody who was there.
It's a lot of warmth, because all you guys, if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue bottle blues when you wake up in the night. Don't make a big mistake, 'cause you can never make it right. When you reach out for the vial, feel the ridges in the glass. It's a matter of survival, baby, better watch your back. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote.